Events in the eurozone are looking increasingly uncertain after the meeting between Greece and other members of the Eurogroup on Monday, which collapsed without agreement. With me here is Martin Sandbu, the author of the FT's free lunch email and one of the paper's top experts on the issues around the eurozone. Martin, it is looking pretty dire after that meeting. Where do things go from here? Is it as bad as people say?
It's all very dramatic, but I think we need to keep in mind that if something is collapsing on a Wednesday and on a Friday and on a Monday and it keeps collapsing, that actually means things are still going on. So these are negotiations. You know, there's no breakdown in the sense that now it's all over. The thing people are focused on is the end of the month. There is this idea that it'd be better to have some agreement in place before February 28th, where the current financial aid program with the eurozone and the IMF expires.
Let's go through the substantive issues and then look and see what would happen if there is no agreement on the 28th. Substantively, what is the problem? The Germans still want Greece to really have a robust reform program. The Greeks want some kind of write-down of the debt. Is there any kind of meeting of minds on that?
You're quite right. So the Greeks want, they were elected, Syriza was elected on a platform of rejecting the memorandum, i.e. the conditions around this financial aid, the financial rescue from 2010 that was renewed in 2012 or expanded in 2012. So they both want less austerity, an end to austerity, and they want not quite no reforms, but different reforms. On the other side, pretty much the whole rest of the eurozone, but led by Germany, there is an insistence that you need to stick to the commitments you already made. So they want to continue or at least extend the current program, which is set to expire at the end of the month, whereas Greeks insist, no, we need something new. It's not that we're not going to pay our debts, but we want different conditions. We want to pay it later. We want to link it to growth, and we want more growth-friendly reforms. So that's the sort of formal disagreement.
Now, do you think a meeting of minds can be reached, or are they really so far apart?
I think on the substance, they're a lot closer than they kind of make it out. The Germans in particular, they care about reforms. They want the Greeks to continue modernizing their economy. On the debt side, I think the Germans are willing to extend repayments, extend maturities, maybe even lower interest rates a bit. No formal haircuts, write-downs of the nominal amounts, because that looks bad politically. But there are always ways of pushing these things back so they are lighter to bear. On the Greek side, they want less austerity, they want to wait before they have to pay more back, but they're not unwilling to do reforms. I mean, they see themselves that there are big problems, and they're partly elected as an alternative to the traditional discredited political class. So they're there to reform things. So both sides, I think, want reforms. Both sides will end up agreeing some kind of stretching out of the debt. The question really is politically, how do you present this in a way that makes everyone happy with their domestic political audiences?
Let's suppose there isn't an agreement by the 28th of February. What happens then? Is there effectively a problem of capital controls and flight of capital out of Greece, and that then triggers the possibility of so-called Grexit?
There is a horror scenario that people talk about. There are IMF repayments coming up in March, about 1.5 billion euros, which it's not clear that Athens has in its coffers. So there is a real prospect of an actual default on the IMF. That can probably be arranged. There will be other things they don't pay maybe. But that's one of the dangers. That would cause a lot of turmoil. The other side is on the banks. The Greek banks are currently very highly dependent on central bank financing. Some with the ECB, mostly with the Bank of Greece itself. But that financing is always subject to the ECB, the European Central Bank, authorizing it. And every 2 weeks, now on Wednesday, they will go through, can we keep letting these Greek banks get central bank money? Because if the Greek sovereign is in trouble, how solid are these Greek banks? So to the extent that there's a risk there that they won't be able to refinance themselves, the fear is that Greek depositors will all run on the banks, try to get all their money out before it's too late. That's the horror scenario.
To sum up, you're actually optimistic that something can be agreed. Despite all the sort of bad signs coming out of Brussels, you think actually in the end there will be a meeting of minds?
I think that some of these cliff edges are a bit artificial. There may be a run on the banks, there may not be. A lot is going to depend on the political mood music. Does it look like they are getting to an agreement? Which they can, because as I said, on the substance, they're not that far apart. So there's going to be a lot of political game playing in the next week. But it's quite possible that February 28th will come and go without the world suddenly changing. There is actually a lot more time than people make it out to be. And they will keep working. These negotiations will drag on. I think there is actually a good chance that in the end we'll find something.
Martin, thank you.